Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd family part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. If you follow the channel, you know that either a week ago or 2 weeks ago, but I think it was last Thursday, 1 week ago today, where I made my prediction on which 12 teams make the playoffs. I'm almost positive that video was on a Thursday, but everybody knows by now that I don't write stuff down, so I could be wrong. It might have been a Friday, but I think it was a Thursday. Well, when I made my prediction on the 12 team playoffs, I picked, obviously, a team to win the Big 12. And honestly, really, truly, the Big 12 is the conference that everybody's just guessing on because Oklahoma and Texas both left, and they're the favorites in that conference every year. Well, now that they're not there, somebody has to win it. And if I'm not mistaken, I picked Kansas State. I'm almost positive they were my pick to make the playoffs by virtue of winning the Big 12. And I picked them, and then a couple of days later, I was like, you know what? I need to look over Kansas State's schedule and see how many games I think they're going to win, because if they're only going to win 7 or 8 games, unless the Big 12 is just flat out awful, that's not going to win the conference. So today's video is my prediction of the Kansas State Wildcats 2024 college football season, and it shows you how much shaking up has been done the last couple of years in all these conferences with the conference realignment, because I wrote their schedule down and looked over it and I said, they only have 2 non-conference games. They're supposed to have 3, and then I realized they have 3, but there's just so much shuffling now in the conference realignment that I forgot who played where. I was just going by memorization, and it finally hit me on who their 3rd non-conference game is. They open up August 31st against the Skyhawks of UT Martin. September the 7th, they play Tulane. And Friday night, September 13th, they play Arizona. So they open up with their 3 non-conference games right in a row, and then their conference play the rest of the season. September 21st, back on Saturdays now, BYU will be Kansas State's first 2024 Big 12 conference opponent. Then they wrap up the month of September on the 28th against the Cowboys of Oklahoma State. They open up the month of October with their first bye week. October 12th, they played Colorado. October 19th, West Virginia. October 26th, Kansas. And they open up the month of November on the 2nd against the Cougars of Houston. And then their second bye week is the second weekend in November. November 16th, they play Arizona State. November 23rd, they play Cincinnati. And they wrap up the season Thanksgiving weekend, November 30th, against Iowa State. Now, if you watched my video about all the Heisman contenders, and you know Kansas State's quarterback, Avery Johnson, is a Heisman contender. He's never going to win it, but it's at least good to see him mentioned for a program like Kansas State, who never gets no love. And Kansas State being good is actually a good thing, because, you know, Kansas State doesn't have a great tradition in college football, but when Bill Snyder coached there years ago, they were good. And then he retired, and they had a head coach named Ron Prince who took over, and in about 3 years, Kansas State just absolutely fell apart. So Bill Snyder came out of retirement and turned him around again. And this time he retired, and Chris Kleiman took over, and they have not missed a beat. They're still really, really good. They've got a brand new offensive play caller this year in Connor Riley. And I hate when the name Connor is spelled with only one N, because to me it looks like Conner. But Connor Riley is their new offensive play caller. But looking over their schedule, I think they beat UT Martin, Tulane, and Arizona pretty handily. When I was looking over their schedule, I honestly, really, truly think they could go undefeated. That's how good Kansas State is this year. And of course, they don't play Oklahoma and Texas. That would be 2 losses they would more than likely get. But, they can't help that those 2 teams left the conference. That's out of Kansas State's control. But looking over their schedule, since they don't play Oklahoma and Texas, I could easily see them going undefeated. But you know me, I never, ever, ever pick anybody to go undefeated. Even though it happens, it's not like we have 8 or 9 teams every year go undefeated, because it's so hard to do. So I'm never going to pick a team to go undefeated. And I've got them in the playoffs, but I also don't think they're going to go undefeated, because that's too hard to do. They'll lose a game somewhere. I've got them beating BYU, beating Oklahoma State, beating Colorado. I think Colorado is going to be as bad this year as they were last year. Shadir Sanders is all talk. The program sucks. I've already made a prediction video on West Virginia, so you know that I picked Kansas State to win that game. They'll beat Houston. They'll beat Arizona State. They'll beat Cincinnati. They'll beat Iowa State. The one loss I'm giving them is Kansas. Now, could they beat Kansas? Absolutely, but Kansas is also really, really good. Yes, I know it's college football, but Kansas is really, really good. And I think Kansas has been down for so long. The fact that they're good now and they can actually compete with their cross-state rivals, I think Kansas goes into that game with nothing to lose. And I think they bring everything, including the kitchen sink, and they beat Kansas State. Now, could Kansas State win that game? Absolutely. But if they do, they'll lose one somewhere else they shouldn't lose, because it's just too hard to go undefeated. And I just don't see Kansas State going undefeated. But still, 3-0 out of conference, 8-1 in the Big 12, 11-1 overall is a dang good football season. And if they do that, undoubtedly, they'll be in the top 10, if not the top 5. And they will make the playoffs. But I just think they're better than everybody on their schedule. But it's just too hard to go undefeated. So they'll lose a game somewhere. So I've got them losing October 26th to their arch nemesis, their arch rival, their cross-state rival, the Kansas Jayhawks. And even though I think Kansas defeats Kansas State, I still think Kansas State wins the conference, because I think Kansas will lose at least 2 games, but I think they'll get the better of Kansas State. As always, any thoughts on this, please feel free to let me know. Now that it's July 25th, week 0 in the world of college football is now less than 1 month away. So it'll be here before we know it. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. To the person that stole my selfie stick, I hope you take a long look at yourself. And that does it for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.